So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think was the most strangest moment in Major League Baseball history? Well, there's no comparison to this in my mind. Eddie Gaedel. Now, he gained recognition in the second game of a St. Louis Browns doubleheader on August 19th, 1951. Weighing 60 pounds and standing 3'7", he became the shortest player in the history of the major leagues. He made a single plate appearance and was walked with 4 consecutive balls before being replaced by a pinch runner at first. His jersey, bearing the uniform number 18, is displayed in the St. Louis Cardinals Baseball Hall of Fame Museum. Now, St. Louis Browns owner Bill Veeck, in his 1962 autobiography, Veeck, as in Wreck, said of Gaedel, he was, by golly, the best darn midget who ever played big league ball. He was also the only one. Now, he batted right and threw left. And for the Browns, you would think that coming from Chicago, he'd be playing for the White Sox. No such way. He was born in Cook County, Illinois on June 8, 25. His father, Carl, was a Lithuanian immigrant who managed a department store and worked as a parking lot checker. His mother, Helen Janicki, was a homemaker. In 1930, the Gaedel family lived in Chicago's Garfield Ridge neighborhood, and by 1940, the family lived in back of the yards. He had worked as a riveter during World War II, as he was able to crawl inside the wings of airplanes. He was also a pro performer belonging to the American Guild of Varsity Artists. After the war, he was hired in 1946 by Mercury Records as a mascot to portray the Mercury Man. He sported a winged hat similar to the record label's logo to promote Mercury recordings. Some early Mercury recordings also feature a caricature as his logo. Now, Browns owner Bill Veeck, a showman who enjoyed staging publicity stunts, found Gaedel through a booking agency. Secretly signed by the Browns, he was added to the team roster and put in uniform with the number 18 in the back. The uniform was that of future St. Louis Cardinals managing partner and chairman William DeWitt Jr., who was a 9-year-old bat boy for the Browns at the time. He came out of a papier-mâché cake between games of a doubleheader at Sportsman Park in St. Louis to celebrate the American League's 50th anniversary. The stunt was also billed as Falstaff Brewery promotion. Falstaff and the fans had been promised a festival of surprises by Veeck. Before the second game got underway, the press agreed that the midget cake appearance had not been up to Veeck's usual promotional standard. Falstaff personnel, who had been promised national publicity for their participation, were particularly dissatisfied. Keeping the surprise he had in store for the second game to himself, Veeck just meekly apologized. Although Veeck denied the stunt was directly inspired by it, the appearance of Gaedel was similar to the plot of You Can Look It Up, a 1941 short story by James Thurber. Veeck later said he got the idea from listening to the conversations of Giants manager John McGraw decades earlier when Veeck was a child. Now, at the plate, on August 19th, he entered the second game in a doubleheader between the Browns and Tigers in the bottom of the first as a pinch hitter for leadoff batter Frank Saucier. Immediately, umpire Ed Hurley called for Browns manager Zach Taylor. Veeck and Taylor had the foresight to have a copy of Gaedel's contract on hand, as well as a copy of the Browns' active roster, which had room for Gaedel's addition. The contract had been filled late in the day on Friday, August 17th. Veeck knew the league office would summarily approve the contract upon receipt, and that it would be not scrutinized until Monday, August 20th. Upon reading the contract, Hurley motioned for Gaedel to take his place in the batter's box. As a result of Gaedel's appearance, all contracts must now be approved by the Commissioner of Baseball before a player can appear in a game. The change of that day's St. Louis Browns scorecard, listing Gaedel and his uniform number, had gone unnoticed by everyone except Harry Matauer, a writer for the St. Louis Globe-Democrat. The Browns publicity man shunted Matauer's inquiry aside until Gaedel stepped up to the plate. Even his teammates had no idea he was actually going to play in the game. Now, this is where the fun started. Gaedel was under strict orders not to attempt to move the bat off his shoulder. When Veeck got the impression that Gaedel might be tempted to swing at a pitch, he warned Gaedel that he had taken out a $1 million insurance policy in his life and that he would be standing on the roof of the stadium with a rifle, prepared to kill Gaedel if he even looked like he was going to swing. Veeck had carefully trained Gaedel to assume a tight crouch in the plate. He had measured Gaedel's strike zone in that stance and claimed it was just 1.5 inches. However, when Gaedel came to the plate, he abandoned a crouch he had been taught for a pose that Veeck described as a fair approximation of Joe DiMaggio's classic style, leading Veeck to fear he was going to swing. In the Thurber story, the player with dwarfism cannot resist swinging at a trio pitch, grounds out, and the team loses the game. With Bob Kane on the mound, laughing at the absurdity that he actually had to pitch to Gaedel, and catcher Bob Swift catching on his knees, Gaedel took his stance. The Tigers catcher offered his pitcher a piece of strategy: keep it low. Kane delivered 4 consecutive balls, all high. The first 2 pitches were legitimate attempts at strikes. The last 2 were half-speed tosses. Gaedel took his base, stopping twice during his trot to bow to the crowd, and was replaced by pinch runner Jim Delsing. The 18,369 fans there gave Gaedel a standing ovation. Now, Veeck had hoped that Delsing would go on to score in a 1-run Browns victory, but he ended up stranded at third base, and the Tigers won the game 6-2. American League President Will Harridge, saying Veeck was making a mockery of the game, voided Gaedel's contract the next day. In response, Veeck threatened to request an official ruling on whether Yankee shortstop and reigning AL MVP Phil Rizzuto, who stood 5'6", was a short ball player or a tall dwarf. Initially, MLB struck Gaedel from its record book as if he had not been in the game. He was relisted a year later as a right-handed batter and left-handed thrower, although he did not play the field. Eddie Gaedel finished his major league career with an on-base percentage of 1,000. His total earnings as a pro athlete were $100, comparable to $1,100 in 2023, the scale price for an American Guild of Variety artist appearance. So it doesn't stop there. Gaedel's major league career lasted just a one-plate appearance, but with Veeck's 1959 acquisition of the White Sox, he began working for Veeck in other capacities. On May 26, 1959, a helicopter carrying Gaedel and the 3 other dwarfs dressed as spacemen invaded Comiskey Park, its apparent mission being the delivery of ray guns to 2 of the White Sox smallest players, Nellie Fox and Louis Aparicio, to whom Gaedel reportedly confided, "I don't want to be taken to your leader, I've already met him." On April 1961, Veeck hired several dwarfs, including Gaedel, as vendors, allegedly due to some complaints from fans regarding hitherto-blocked sightlines. Unfortunately, on June 18, 1961, the unemployed Gaedel, who had just turned 36, was at a bowling alley in Chicago, his birthplace and hometown. For some reason, he was followed home and beaten. His mother discovered him lying dead in his bed. He had bruises about his knees and on the left side of his face. A coroner's inquest determined that he also had a heart attack. Bob Kane, who had pitched to Gaedel, was the only MLB figure to attend the funeral, despite the fact that 2 never formally met. Gaedel was interred at St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery and Mausoleum in Cook County, and his tombstone indicates that his family name may actually have been Gaedel, Gaedele, not Gaedel. Now, Gaedel is one of 5 Major League players who drew a walk in their only plate appearance and ever played the field. The first 3 all played in the 1910s. Dutch Schirek with the Browns, Bill Bash with Pittsburgh, Joe Cobb with Detroit. Now, the Cobb situation, research shows that Cobb may have actually struck out in his only plate appearance. On June 24, 2007, Kevin Milillo of the Oakland Athletics did so against the Mets. Other than Gaedel, the other 4 players pinched in for pitchers, and all 5 appeared in games the teams ultimately lost. Now, Gaedel's one-day career has been a subject of programs on ESPN and MLB Network. He was mentioned by name in the lyrics of Terry Cashman's homage to 1950s baseball, Talkin' Baseball, also known as Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. His at-bat was the number 1 choice in a 99 list of unusual and unforgettable moments in baseball history published by the Sporting News. Now, in 1994, Veeck's son Mike owned the minor league St. Paul Saints team. He brought the then 65-year-old Bob Kane to the park to reenact the at-bat by pitching to the 10-year-old son of the Saints manager. Now, because of its scarcity, get this, Gaedel's autograph now sells more than for Babe Ruth's. Gaedel's grandnephew, Kyle Gaedel, was selected in June 2011 MLB draft by the Padres and played minor league baseball as high as a AA level. Now, every book that we got as kids talking about baseball had a picture of Gaedel at the plate. It's one of the most published and revered photos of all time. It just shows the love of baseball. No matter your size, you can play baseball, like for smaller kids. But Veeck was a shaman. He basically wanted as much publicity for his team as possible. Some people said he was making fun of Gaedel. Well, Gaedel was a performer. That's what he was doing. It's like Billy Barty. I mean, all the roles Billy Barty played, including shows like Bizarre, he said once, "Well, I'm getting paid. I mean, I have just every right to work as a, as a full-scale person." So Eddie Gaedel, there's been strange incidents in baseball history. Canseco, the ball going his head and hitting a home run. The guy who went through the minor league player went through the outfield fence. The bad call in the '85 World Series in Game 6. There's been strange stuff, but Eddie Gaedel, my God, amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our Vintage MLB podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Have a good one and stay cool if you can. Bye.